Okay, so your C# intro. We'll begin our look at C# by comparing it to what we previously learned about JavaScript. C# and JavaScript have many similarities. Uh, so these are the two biggest languages that employers are looking for. They're very complex, yet they're easy also, but they have a lot of programming in them. So both use variables, both have arrays. They can use the if-then statements and perform loops. Here's a major differences you will want to focus on for now. Okay, so number one, C# requires each statement to end with a semicolon. Very important. Forgetting to place the semicolon at the end of your line statement will cause the entire program to not fail to execute. JavaScript is much more forgiving. Like JS, C# is case sensitive. A variable called ABC is different from a variable called ABC. So number two, C# is a compiled language. JavaScript is an interpreted language. This means that C# source code can be run. It must be converted into an .exe program and converted to a binary code. So the process of converting source code to binary.exe is called compiling. It's also called build or building the code. So this is these are your basic building blocks for creating your C# or your programming. So first you code it, then you compile it, then you have your program, and then you go ahead and execute your program. So Visual Studio makes this process fairly painless. Clicking and building and run button auto builds the .exe files for you. The disadvantage of a compiled language is that it's an extra step to run and deploy. The advantage is the code execute faster. JavaScript is an interpreted language, meaning the source code can be interpreted as is without needing to be smashed into a binary.exe file. The disadvantage is that the code runs slower. Okay, so here you have your source code compiled. So your C# goes into a binary, which are zeros and ones, and then your code is executed. So program.exe. So there's also different bits. These are just binary bits. There's also quantum bits. So your source code interpret for JavaScript just goes straight to your execution. C# is strongly typed language. This is also called statically typed. This means that you must tell C# the data type of variable when you create it. C# cannot guess what it is by the value you give it. So JavaScript, on the other hand, is a weak type or dynamically typed. It can guess the data type by the value you provide to it. So here you have your C# code examples. Here you're gonna have your int my variable equal 10, string my text, and then here you have in quotation this is some text, and it both end with a semicolon. So in C#, we must include the data type when creating the variables. My variable is an integer and my text is a string. So JavaScript code examples. Here you have your variable, my variable is equal to 10. Variable some text equals this is some text. In JavaScript, we could only use keyword var or let, and JavaScript figures out the type of data it is. Number 4, C# can't run without the .NET framework. JavaScript doesn't need or use .NET. Number 5, C# can't run on a web browser. JavaScript can. Here's an update. Microsoft has just released some bleeding edge technology in 2019 called Blazor, which that allows C# to execute in a web browser, but it's very, very new and no one knows if it will become popular. So we'll just leave JavaScript for the web apps and server, while C# will go ahead and do the back end. C# supports class-based object-oriented programming. JavaScript supports object-oriented programming, functional programming, and procedural programming. We'll dive much deeper into this point later in this course. Number 7, most common uses. So here you have your table, C# and JavaScript. So here your backend web server with ASP.NET, your desktop and business applications, your video game development, which is pretty cool. And then you have your JavaScript. And here you have your backend server with Node.js, very popular, and web browser scripting. But A lot of people know Node.js, so if you know something that's like very niche and unique, where a lot of companies are trying to figure out, like Angular, that's one of the good ones, the good frameworks, but I don't like it due to the fact that it's always changing. They're always updating their language every 6 months or so. And, I want to, for me, I like to learn a language that's kind of like set where I could just keep on coding. So naming practices in C#, it's a tradition to use camel case. The first word of a variable is a lowercase, and all other words starts with an uppercase. For example, some very long name for my variable. This is very classic, and this is just very normal behavior when you're coding. C# uses some ideas that didn't cover when learning JavaScript, something called classes and methods. When naming a class or a method, C# requires Pascal case, where the first word is capitalized. For example, this is my C# class. So this author has a preference for a snake class where everything has an underscore. And if on occasion you see this creep in here, I apologize. It just could slip into the habit, especially when jumping back and forth between several languages. So key terms you guys want to remember for anything is interpreted language, compiled language, source code, binary code, strongly typed, static type, weakly typed, dynamically typed. Okay, so that's going to be your C# basic. All right, let's go ahead and go over to your syntax. Okay, so C# syntax is incredibly unforgiving. Everything is case sensitive. Semicolons matter. Missing one thing can cause your code to fail or to run. The positive side of this is that C# forces you to write code that is less prone to issues than other languages that are less strict. Okay, so C# is very important because it could just make your whole C# syntax is very important because it can make your whole program crash, right? Each statement must end with a semicolon. So that's the number one rule. Okay, number 2 is creating variables. Variables begin with writing the data type followed by name. So this is an example. You have some data type variable, then you go ahead and have an equal value, and here you have your value ended with a semicolon. Go ahead and have an integer variable 1 is equal to 10, so end it with a semicolon. Start your next line of code. String variable is equal to this is some text. Here you will have a text stored on a string variable 2. And here you have your double. Here you'll have your decimals stored in variable 3. Okay, so creating constants. Number 3, constant values that cannot be changed begin with the keyword constant when data type and name. So here you have your constant data type names equal to value, constant integer my constant is equal to 1, constant string my text is equal to can't be changed. So this just means that values that can't be changed. All right, so these are like the stubborn type of value datas. Okay, so number 4, assignment operators. Okay, we use assignment symbols to set a value on a variable. Okay, so here you will have your equal, your more than equal, and then your less than equal. So set equal current value to a new value. So like if you have x plus is equal to 5, if x has a value of 10, x would equal to 10 plus 5. And then here this is just the opposite of just saying that 10 minus 5. Okay. Comparison operators, we use comparison symbols to compare two things. Okay, so these are very good when you're creating your if then while statements and or loops. Here you have your equal. This is equal to your greater than, depending on where you place this, right? So this is just having side is greater, this side is greater, and then here it just means that there's the equal value inside the value. Same way. So logic, we use this logic operator symbols to create logic statements. So this right here is one of the big ones also that you guys have to learn a lot, because this deals with a lot of logic programming. So C# has a very simple way of just having an and, which is your and symbol, your or, which is the the long line down. Here you just have a shift, and then you have your backspace, and just that's on your keyboard. And then every time you have this right here, this is just common in pseudocode, is that this means not. So your exclamation mark. These are exactly like and or not from SQL. Okay, so number 7, arithmetic. We use arithmetic operators to add, subtract, and perform math operations. Okay, so here you just have your plus, your minus, your multiply, divide, incremental, and decremental. So we've learned this a lot from our previous courses, curriculum, C#, SQL, and then our web development. You guys could reference all these on your Microsoft document. So you pull this up, it just tells you all your keywords, contextual keywords, and so forth. Okay, so a complete reference for C# operators can be found on also this website right here. So you could run a is equal to this type of, and then you go ahead and console write line A, which output 6, and 2 plus 2 times 2 is equal to 8. Pretty cool. And then make sure you guys read this right here, Microsoft C# language reference. So this, go ahead and start with the C# documentation, like always, and go ahead and just go through the whole documentation so you guys can have like a very strong knowledge of C#, right? So hello world, introduction to C# interactive C# tutorial. This tutorial teaches C# interactively. And then you begin, and then you go ahead and just type this right here into your console line, right? So you just open this up, create a new project. Okay, so I haven't used Visual Studio Code in a while, probably back in 4 years. That's why that update was necessary. So here he's gonna make console app. I'm gonna go ahead and put next. All right, so what's the difference between console app.net core? Okay, so this is Visual Basic, so VB. So we're doing C#, right? Go ahead and name this Hello World. This is gonna be my first project, right? Create. So usually sometimes it just might have a Hello World already on there. But if not, we have the documentation here, okay? So here, yep, I knew it. All right, so here it's already have our using system. You begin everything with C# using system, or depending on what kind of library you want to use, right? And then here you put namespace hello world, and then class program static void, and then console write it out. And then you could just debug it, start debugging, F5. There's not gonna be any type of problems with this file. So we'll go ahead and here, this is a console. Hello world has printed on my console, right? Pretty cool. All right, so if I wanted to, I could change this also to another one. So I'm gonna go ahead and just copy this part and type in goodbye world. Let's go see what happens. So I'm gonna add a new line and go ahead and debug it. Okay, cool. So here, first line, hello world, and it's automatically spaced and enter to the next line, which is goodbye world. Pretty cool, pretty neat. Okay, you guys could also try the code in your browser, which I'm not gonna do. Now this is gonna get a little bit more You guys are kind of used to this. Now you guys are going to do declare and use variables, which is just going to be like string a friend is equal to Bill, console write a friend. So this is just telling the pointer to go ahead and point to a friend and then write the line Bill. Okay, so I could go ahead and copy this part, type this in the class program also. Let's go see what happens. Go ahead and debug it. So Bill has been printed. And then, I go ahead and also do this part right here. You can assign different values to any variable you declare. You can change the name of one of your friends, add 2 lines in the interactive windows following the code you already added. So a friend is equal to Maria. So now we'll go ahead and point to a friend and write that out, and Maria should be popped up, right? Let's check it out. All right, so now we know about strings. Let's talk about having a friend, a value is equal to Maria. Go ahead and save it. And I think F5's to debug it pretty fast. So these are just keywords. So Maria is printed out, right? So we have Bill and Maria, two nouns, right? Because that's a name on here. And then here we have console.writeLine. And then we're going to have our string hello, and then we're going to have plus a pointer, which is a friend, right? Let's go type this out. So, think about it. What's going to happen when you actually have this out? Because sometimes when I started out programming, I didn't know what this mean. Because I'm like, okay, hello plus a friend. I thought that's what's going to be printed. But when you go ahead and do it, it just means that you're going to have hello, and then you're going to have a friend that's pointing to Maria added to this part, which is going to be hello world, and it's still entered as space. Now if you guys want to actually think about it, let's go have all of them lined up into one line. So you just have console write line all in one parentheses, or just backspace the line. And then here, this is called string interpolation. So if you add a dollar symbol on there, before calling a string, you can include variables like a friend inside a string between curly braces. Give it a try. So this is pretty cool. Let's go ahead and type that in. Console write line. So it's actually taking a little bit longer for this to process. So always have like a good CPU. Go ahead and stop debugging. Okay, so that's just the message should be hello Maria. Okay, so string first name is equal to Maria, string second friend is equal to Sage. I'm just gonna let you guys go through the documentation. All right, so that's just working with syntax. So variables and data types. Okay, in C#, a variable begins by writing its data type followed by the name to give it. So C# has more data types than JavaScript or SQL. That's why C# is pretty a good language to learn for the fact that a lot of people need it to program and stuff like that. So but the core idea is the same. We must give our variables a data type and then can only assign values that can match to the type. We call these common data types primitive data types because they're simple built-in data structures included with C#. So keyword primitive data types, because that shows up a lot. C# common primitive data types will be, here you'll have your simple string, char, int, double, float, bool, uint, and then long, and then your date time. And then casting, just like in SQL, we can cast from data types to another when needed. In order to cast, all we need to do is specify the data type when using the variable. So on line 1 of the code below, we create some dec as a double decimal. On line 2 below, we cast a variable some dec as an integer. The results will be an integer. So here you'll have a snippet of what's going on. You have a double is equal to this integer, and integer's results equal to this number, times back to where it's going, integer some dec, which would be this, and then go ahead and this right here was just say write the results. All right, so casting strings into numbers. Sometimes you might have you might have strings text that you might need to treat as numbers. Trying to use the code below won't work. Instead, we have to use a special method called int parse. This code will be an error. Int parse will convert text to a number for math operations. So now you enter this type of line of code because a string is supposed to be characters. And now that you have int parse, you can write the results. Okay, so that's your C# data types. And then let's go ahead and go into your lab. So our first C# program, we can start creating a new software program by clicking new project. Go to your console app, .NET Core, C# next create. Be sure it shows C# here and not F# or Visual Basics. Make sure it says .NET Core, which is the newest version of .NET. And Visual Basics, this is also a good language to learn also, because these are also implemented with web applications. So C# program looks slightly different from JavaScript. We want to ignore both the namespace and class sections of the code for now and focus just on main. We'll dive into what classes and namespaces are in the future lessons. Lines of codes we'll write in main will execute when we click the play button. So as you know, your class will be all your all your class stuff, right? All your programming. And then your namespaces is just telling you that, using end of your semicolons or spacing out. Until we get to lesson 5 and 6, all lines of codes we write will be typed inside the main code block. Don't write any lines of code above or below the main block for now. So here, just like how I showed you guys, first things first is just write. You have your default settings. In the main code block, write the following lines of C# code. So I don't think you guys will write this because it's already defaulted to write that. But go ahead and follow the labs for 2.4. Number 1, create a variable called myFirstNumber as an integer with the value of 19. Create a variable called mySecondNumber as an integer with the value of 244. And then go ahead and console write line to print the results of multiplying my first number and my second number. Create a variable called myText as a string with the value of some text. Use console.write line to print the results of my text and second number together. Number 5. So here is a typo. So, create a variable called myText as a string with the value goes here. Number 6, use a console.write line to print the results of adding my text and more text. Number 7, create 2 strings with the name color 1 and color 2. Assign color 1 the value yellow. Assign color 2 with the value red. Cool. So I don't know. You could actually program to actually have colors inside this terminal. Believe it or not. All right. Create 2 bools, is yellow and is green. Set is yellow to true and is green to false. Use console write line to print the values of color 1 is yellow, color 2 is green. Create a variable called numbers as a double, but don't assign it to any value yet. On a new line, assign numbers the value of my second number divided by my first number. Number 12, print the value of the numbers to the console. Number 13, on a new line, assign the numbers of the value of my second number divided by my first number, but this time cast my first number as a double. Number 14, print the value of the numbers to the console. Number 15 and last, use the console.write line to print the text breakpoint here. Insert a breakpoint to your pause execution at this line. Run the program and expect the values of all your variables. Hover your mouse over the variables and see its values appear. So I'm gonna stop right here. I'm gonna give you guys some other tips. So go ahead and download some of the stuff here from your marketplace. I think. Come on. This is what you get for buying this $4,000 computer. Okay, so here, type in like Intellisense or something for Intellisense C#. How do you go to market? Extensions. Manage extensions. Okay, so here let's go look for, just type in C#, and I'll definitely download. Okay, so that's a trial, so don't download trial. This is VB.net, code cracker for C#, and analyzer library for C that uses Roslyn to produce refactoring code analysis. So go ahead and download this right here. And then here also has C# method code snippets, so that you guys will, like, be snipping some of these codes out for your documentation. Go ahead and download that. Quick diagram tool for C# code wizard for C# to quickly explore, navigate, and document source code. Go ahead and download this. Just download all these goodies from the market. Okay, so those are the good 3 ones, and then let's go check out Intellisense. Okay, so download Security Intellisense for C#. So these are good for just helping you out when you're starting code. Okay, so those are some of the quick tools to help you out. Okay, so here he has a small snippet right here, my second number / my first number. So 16, go ahead and create a variable called text to number as a string with the value 80,473. Number 17, create a variable called result as an integer and assign it to the value of 99. Times to text to number, use the int parse, what we were talking about, to complete the operation. Print the results. 18, create a date time variable called right now and set its value to date time now. Print the results. To view the solution in this lab, visit our GitHub. But don't cheat, okay? Go ahead and try to do this on your own, and then if you guys are stuck, just go ahead and go over the code, write it line by line over and over again. So this right here just gives you all the answers to the thing, but I don't really like this because it doesn't help you code and doesn't give you the foundations of learning how to code and using your knowledge to implement the program. All right, so 2.4 lab.
What were the extensions you wanted us to download?
Go ahead and download. So how you get to market in here? So, okay, so here extension, go to extension, manage extension, and then here go to C#. What do I have downloaded? Installed. Okay, so I have stuff installed in here. So I already have the GitHub extension for Visual Studio. I think that comes default. And let's go see what I have downloaded in here. It's 3 updates. Go ahead and update all this. Okay, I haven't really used Visual Studio in a while, but I think you can just type in C# inside your managed extension. Download C# snippets. What else is there? This the other C#. And then Intellisense C#. So that will help you out code and figure. And that'll give you like a better. I'm actually about to show you after I'm done downloading this right now. I just get a bad habit when I see like an update, I gotta click on it. Okay, so that's updated. Okay, so installed. Let's go ahead and go and just type in C# in here. So you just type in C# or download Code Cracker for C#. This is an analyzer library for C#. Good data structure. Download code snippets, and then quick diagram tool for C#. So you could just you could visualize your C#. You could snippet your code, and you have a good data structure for C#. Now these are just extension. This is not gonna help you code. This is just gonna like make it easier for you to just like write code out and figure out what's going on and give you more options. And then last but not least, your Intellisense C#. I don't know why it should be like automatically downloading there. So here, this is created from Microsoft Dev Labs. So this is definitely source codable. And this is provide quick and inline security suggestions and fix for C# and XML source code. So I download that for your C#. And those are the 4 things I would download. And then you could download like, other things like themes, theme packs and stuff like that also to change your theme, right? So I have that downloaded. I'm gonna delete this line because I don't know why it just bugged me up. And then F5 to debug it and open up the terminal. And here it just has your coding. And we get pretty cooler once you guys start opening mapping and stuff like that. You get to play around with graphs and get more into 3D programming. And then there you could just go into Unity. So here I'm just working with work strings. So we just got done with what I'm still on this on the part, right? Okay, so we're gotta go to 2.5 lab. So if you're done with 2.4 lab, until we get to lesson 5 and 6, all lines of code will be right when typed inside the main code block. Don't write any lines of code above or below the main block for now. In this lab, we'll learn how to get what a user types on the keyboard and work with it. The syntax we'll use in the console.read line. String user input equals console.read line. This line of code will pause the program and wait for the users to type something. When the user press the enter key, the program will continue with what they stored in the user input variable. It's important to know that the data the user types into the program will come in as a string text. If we want to work with the data and use type as a number, must convert it with the either int parse or convert to int 32. Either option will work. Okay, so I'm gonna pause right here. Okay, so this right here does have your what's it called? Your number for your code, so you could be easier. I don't know why the other SQL didn't have that defaulted, so you guys could actually debug your thing. So any of these 3 code examples will convert the user to text to an integer. So here you could use double slash to have it as a comment, and then here you'll just have a string and integer. And here you have your integer user input is equal to int parse, and then you go ahead and console read line. And you also have your convert dot to int 32. So you may be wondering why we are working with text input output instead of skipping straight onto the web. We need to be able to walk before we can run, so we want to focus on learning C# without adding the complexity of web interface right now. This just talks about um, yeah, so that's definitely going to be one of those pain in the ass stuff right there. Using everything you learned so far, solve the following problems. Number one, write a C# program to print on screen the output of adding, subtracting, multiplying, dividing of two numbers which will be entered by the user. Number two, write a C# program to print hello and your name, which will type in on the console in a separate line. Number three, write a C# program to print the output of multiplication of three numbers, which will be entered by the users. Number four, write a C# program that takes an age, for example 20, as input and prints something like you could look younger than 20 and the age the user entered. Okay, so to view our solution on GitHub, use the following link. Same thing. Definitely don't want you guys to read all this stuff. Like, definitely want you guys code on yourself, right? That's how you actually get better instead of just copy and pasting. But I know most of you guys are struggling with coronavirus and having some issues to deal with and all that stuff. But make sure, if you can't do it, let me know, and there's always classes happening, right? So that's going to be your 2-5 lab. And that's going to be it for lesson 2. And hopefully you guys have something to working with your new project and working with, if you already have everything downloaded, because I think most of you guys have that downloaded on your computer. If not, go ahead and go over back with the lessons, okay? And yeah,